Hi, folks. It's me, Heather Jo Flores, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about getting started with permaculture because a lot of people ask me this question. So we talk about what is permaculture. Permaculture is a design system for sustainable living. It's a way to bring your ethics into alignment with your daily actions. It's a set of tools and techniques that permaculture uses can be employed for designs on every scale and in every project that they are employed. Even if it doesn't become a completely closed loop system, that system definitely becomes more ecological, sometimes with very little effort. One of the things that really inspires me about the permaculture practice is that the more you do it, the better thinker you become, and the more you call in an awareness to the natural world around you and to the non-human species and to their needs and contributions, the more adept you become at creating a synergistic life for yourself. And that applies across the board. So whether you're doing business or you're gardening or you're raising your children or you're just cooking a meal, once you start to employ these ideas and to use these tools, they become second nature to you, and you just kind of become healthier and happier. And if we go on a big scale, if we look at the garden is a microcosm, right? And if you look at the macrocosm of our global culture and the experience that we're having as humans on the planet, we can see that a lot of the behaviors that we've been engaged in, a lot of the patterns that we've created are not working. They're killing off species, they're killing off the planet, and ultimately we're next on the list. So the idea is to reverse these effects by taking some different types of actions when it comes to our relationship with ourselves and with each other, with our neighbors, with the structures in which we live, with the plants and animals in which we interact, and so forth. So this is why we're geeked out on permaculture. It's lots and lots of fun to try things and to experiment and to just live with this idea that we're working with nature rather than against it. But a lot of the beginner conversations sort of stop there. Not enough time is spent on the practical hands-on how-to of how to actually get started. I'd like to focus on a handful of actions that you can take, whether you're a renter or you own your home, or whether you live in the city or you live in the country, whether you have a lot of money or you have no money at all. These are just some basic actions that you can take to start to employ permaculture ideas and to start to become a systems thinker and create the exponential effects of the permaculture journey. So getting started with permaculture. Tip number one is enroll in a permaculture course, whether it's online or locally or both. I recommend taking as many as you can and reading as many of the most recommended permaculture books you can get your hands on. I do recommend doing a little bit of research about the teachers and the writers. There are a lot of different resources out there, a huge diversity of resources available to you. So look for stuff that you feel like you can relate to your local bioregion, even though permaculture is not just about learning how to garden in your climate. It's about learning how to garden in any climate, learning how to build structures that work in any climate. It's about learning how to design, how to observe and design. And so if it doesn't seem like that's what somebody is teaching, then perhaps continue to look. Remember that it's a design system. It's not just about gardening. You want to also just check in and sort of get your toes wet in a few different types of permaculture communities, especially if you're exploring online resources, and look for ones that feel like a nice fit for you. There are sort of many different flavors of community. So I'm going to create a resource guide of places that I can very confidently and comfortably recommend to you that are in addition to the free online permaculture courses that I offer. And I also want to mention that this video here, Getting Started with Permaculture, is just one part of this Permaculture for Beginners toolkit that I'm creating. So that's free, donation-based, part of the free permaculture project. And, of course, we love donations, but they are in no way obligatory. So make sure that you sign up for that Permaculture Beginners toolkit, because there's going to be a lot of other resources besides this video to help make these ideas super tangible for you. And if you, for some reason, are still stumped after watching these suggestions, then there will be a bunch of other resources for you. Tip number two is grow something. Anything. I don't care what it is. The first thing I ever grew was a potato that I had thrown out the window. And, somebody had told me that stuff, the food will compost if you throw it on the ground. I had no idea what they meant by that. I was 23 years old. I had grown up in not a gardening environment, and so I started just throwing my kitchen scraps out the window of my little apartment in Portland, Oregon. And there was a tiny strip of land there, and they composted themselves, and started to stink, of course, because I wasn't composting properly. But I went out there, and there was a blooming plant with purple flowers all over it, and I discovered it was a potato, and that was like my gateway drug into becoming a gardener, which sort of didn't fully manifest for a couple of years, but that really opened a door in my mind and in my life, and I'm so grateful for that moment. And there's something that the plants will do for you, and it sounds sort of woo-woo spiritual, but seriously, just grow something, grow anything. If you don't have any plants, go out and get some right now. You can walk around the neighborhood if you don't have any money. You can pinch little pieces of plants off of things that you find in the neighborhood, and you can grow those and, get yourself some plants. And if it's something that you can eat, or an herb that you identify with that you feel is an ally to you, all that much better. Something that's beautiful, that inspires you. Here's a valerian. I always grow valerian everywhere I live because it really is just wonderful. It's an ally. Here's some clary sage. Here's a canna. So now I'm a crazy obsessed gardener, but all three of these plants would be beautiful in pots, even if I lived in a tiny apartment. So, tip number 3 is compost. So this is a large compost pile, and we live in like a double-sized urban lot, so it's like a quarter acre, and I recognize that's a lot more space than some people watching this video might have. But you can create a compost bin, or even like a tiny worm farm underneath your sink in an apartment or on a balcony, or you can come together with neighbors, or you can participate in a local composting project at a community garden. So there's lots of ways to compost, and again, you're interacting with these microorganisms, which are ultimately strengthening your immune system. They're also strengthening your relationship with nature, and they're fine-tuning your observation skills. There's so much that you can learn from compost and from the composting process. If compost goes wrong and things get anaerobic, and then you have to, do some troubleshooting and figure out how to fix that, or if the compost is just dry and just sitting there, then you start to think about enlivening the communities. So again, compost is another sort of gateway, and you can do it just about anywhere. So another sort of easy and common way to get started with permaculture is by playing some games with your water system. Starting with looking at where your water comes from and where your water goes, and thinking about ways that you can divert the flow of water on site. This can really help you to become a systems thinker. Plus, you get some really cool projects going. So whether it's gray water or rainwater, or just putting a bucket under the bathroom sink and using that to water your houseplants in your apartment, start to think about the water and look for opportunities in your water system to get started with. Tip number 4 is observation. Start to become an incredibly adept observer. So this is going to be one of the first exercises that you would do in any permaculture class. It's going to be one of the first things that a permaculture consultant would do at your place. You're going to establish some goals. You're going to engage in observation. These are the first 2 steps of any permaculture process, no matter who you're working with. So these little bits of information, these questions that we start to ask, are what are going to help us to become systems thinkers. As we start to learn more and more and more about these creatures and how they interact, and about the plants and the systems around us, we're going to become more capable of creating systems that mimic nature and are therefore more sustainable, more in harmony with nature over the long term. So observation is the beginning and the middle and the end of that in so many ways. Along with observation comes documentation. So, cultivate a habit of taking notes and of keeping track of what you plant and what you see and what you learn, what you observe, what fails. Always write down your mistakes. Take pictures of the ugly spots. Don't only take pictures of the beautiful spots, partially because it's really fun to have the before and after pictures to share, but also because you learn from that stuff, and you learn from it later too, even just reflecting back. You realize what you missed. And finally, the last tip I want to leave you with today, it's something that you can do from anywhere, and it's another very powerful tool in the permaculture toolkit and just everywhere in your life. Even if you don't ever end up designing ecological landscapes and homes and gardens, if you become open to feedback, more and more and more open to feedback, that is going to empower you in every aspect of your life. So specifically in permaculture design, feedback is the fuel upon which we thrive. Then I highly recommend that you explore the feedback loops in your life right now and strengthen them and enhance them and start to become very, very adept at responding to feedback. Okay, phew, that was fun. So hopefully you feel a little bit more empowered than you did when you started watching this video, and I really appreciate you watching this video. And if you liked it, please do like and subscribe and ding the little dinger bell to get notified every time I post a new video. So I am doing this free permaculture toolshed, and in that we're creating a bunch of hands-on how-to resources for anybody who's interested in living more sustainably on the planet. And feel free to reach out to me directly, and thanks so much for watching. Talk to you soon.